goosebumps every time, yeah, 713. To the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, things I'm on, you make everything feel fine. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around me, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags.
Yes, sir.
Up the mags. Get in there. Welcome to Loaded Mag NUFC, the full loaded transfer show. We're back again to talk transfers. It is officially January. The window is open, and so we are going to get down to business. So, Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Thursday evening?
I'm fine. My internet might be fine again, though. It's that lag. I think it's because people are at home still. Get back to work, get back to school, and let's fix my internet because it's ping. I've got upload and download speed is fine. It's the ping that's the problem. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that ping. But I'm good. Back at work today for me actually. Nice, easy enough start into the new year. It really kicks into gear on Monday when everyone gets back. But Chris, how are you?
Oh, good, mate. Yeah, I've not had time to speak to you, actually, have I? I literally joined as the intro was starting. I've literally just got in from footy. I'm back in work on Monday, so I have been off today. But sadly, the wife is still not well. She's off at the moment, so yeah, she's not. She's struggling. Yeah, she might be in the chat later. Who knows? But yeah, all good. Apart from that, boys, I've been really looking forward to having Antonio back on as well because it's been a while. But yeah, Pete, how are you doing, mate?
Not too bad. Just busy. Still buzzing off our last 3 points at Old Trafford, and the fume that's coming from the Man United fans. It does make me laugh. It really does. The amount of fume that's coming out of there, I love it, and there's nothing they can argue against because we were absolutely class on Monday night. So yeah, hopefully same again this weekend against Tottenham. But yeah, all good, boys. All good. I'm really looking forward to getting down to some names and talking about, and just to kind of outline the show, it will be based on young players, which is our remit right now under Paul Mitchell, just to be absolutely clear. Seems to be that remit of sort of 21 to 25, that sort of targeted element of player. And we're going to look at some of them and maybe a few younger ones as well. And we've got the main man who knows his stuff about this genre of player. And so it's an absolute pleasure to welcome back in for a Mango special, António Mango, the under-23 football scout. Let's get him in.
Welcome back, António.
Hello, chap. He's all right?
Good, mate.
Oh, good.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it. In the
Pleasure.
transfer window, this is where I come out of hibernation, isn't it?
Of course. It won't be a transfer window without having some Mango talent scouting going on. And look, just before we get started, obviously it's a pleasure to have you on our channel, but you've got your own channel, so give you a chance to plug that now so people can go and subscribe after the show.
Appreciate that, guys. Yeah, if you just search António Mango in the search bar, I'll be the top one, I'm guessing. Pretty much what my channel's about. I do previews, reviews of games. More importantly, I do scout reports on all the best under 23 talents. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, go and check it out. It'll be greatly appreciated.
Top
Cool.
stuff.
And it's hyperlinked as well, so you can just click on the link and it'll bring you straight into Antonio's channel.
Perfect. Now, look, we'll get into some of the players in just a second. Guys, can I ask you to just turn the tab back? Because it's
magic.
So here, like magic, he appears, and ultimately we're looking at some players now. We're looking at the key positions that we think Newcastle United are going to be targeting. So tonight's show will be a lot very much focused on right wing, a lot very much focused on centre back, and then maybe dabbling in one or two other areas, but we'll get a various different sorts of players. Now, the key is that, Antonio, you've been scouting a lot of these players, so you will have a little bit more knowledge on these players than me, Daz, Chris, and everyone else that's watching. So
Hopefully.
no pressure, but you always deliver on your knowledge. And we'll start with the most obvious one at centre back, and it's Abdukodir Khusanov of RC Lens. We've talked about him before. We talked about the link in previous shows with Khusanov. On top of that, Mark Douglas of the iPaper has talked about Newcastle wanting to sign him and him being a target, one of many, I imagine, but a target for Newcastle United. Just how good is he, in your opinion? Obviously, I imagine you've seen quite a bit of him. Talk to us about him, about how good he is.
I'm going to be honest, he's blown us away for how quickly he's just like came into the French league, because the French league is one of the most physical. You need athleticism, physicality to play in that French league, and he certainly got it. I mean, there's a reason why RC Lens have conceded the joint least goals in that league alongside PSG, and he's one of them. Like, the way he's just transitioned into this league is unbelievable, and that's just a testament to his maturity, his character. So he comes across as a good character. But I mean, when he's defending, he just brings back that old school style defending. He loves to hustle and bustle. He's sharp in his challenges. He's booting people out of the way. He's that sort of type of defender. He's physical. He's strong. And what I'm most impressed about him, he's 6'1", but his jumping reach and his ability to beat people in the air is incredible. So he's got all. When you're scouting players, you look at attributes, because you can't really change somebody's attributes. So if he does have weaknesses and they're in his playing styles, there's something you can coach into him. But in terms of profile-wise, attributes-wise, he's something that Eddie Howe would love. But I've got a feeling like Newcastle fans would love as well, because his robustness, he just fears nobody. He'll challenge anybody. He'll put himself out there, and his presence on the pitch is wonderful. So yeah, there's absolutely no surprise that Newcastle are interested in him, and he's probably getting scouted by many clubs at the minute.
Definitely. It was rumoured sort of a few weeks ago that Newcastle were, of course, interested, but the likes of Tottenham, who look like they're desperate for a centre-back right now, and even more so Man City, who look like they're desperate for a centre-back right now. You got top clubs, certainly in England, and others as well, that will be interested in. I think this might be a hard deal to do, boys. The money that's out there. We spoke to Lee the other day, lads, and I'll come to you on this. We spoke to Lee the other day, and he talked about sort of a fee between sort of 25 to maybe 30 million to get him out. Sounds great to us in terms of price, but with those sorts of teams in the mix, do you think it's going to be hard to get someone like him out the door, especially when you're looking at Man City and the money that they've got? What do you think, Daz?
For me, no. I think we get it done. I'm so much confident. I've done the poster already for the silent post. That's how confident I am that we can get it done. Whether it actually happens, don't worry. There's plenty of posters that never happened. Plenty of reaction shows that we've never got to do, unfortunately. But no, I really like the look of him as well. Ever since I saw the clip of him, like, I haven't watched him play a full match, and it's just YouTube highlights. But he looks amazing when you do watch him like that. But yeah, just glad that we're in the mix for him. I don't see like the likes of Spurs or something like teams like that as a rival for us. We can blow them out of the water. Look at where they are in the league. We're upward trajectory. They'll be thinking about things themselves, thinking of changing things maybe after the weekend as well. So they'll be in disarray again. But yeah, so yeah, I think if we can bring him in, brilliant, and it's like a cheaper alternative to McAtee. So, and then we can go for a right winger of suitable quality as well.
Go on, Antonio.
I think he's the type of player. The reason why I think if he went anywhere it would probably be us over somebody like Man City. It's because Man City wants somebody with a bit more experience, whereas we've got Shaw and he can kind of learn off Shaw a little bit because Shaw's still got like a year in him maybe. Because what's Shaw now? 33? He can play until he's 34. So a year of just learning, being an understudy of Shaw will help. Now, if you want to get in depth about his playing style, he's an aggressive defender. He's very front-footed. He wants to engage. He loves to tackle. He's quite raw. He's got his weaknesses. He tackles. He kind of gets away with it because of his physicality. He kind of tackles with the wrong foot. He leads with the wrong foot, but he gets away with it because of his physicality and his ability to duel with people. But if he was to transition into the Premier League, there is a few concerns that I might have is when he goes in, he's all in. And I think against players with better speed of foot, they can just knock the ball around him. So he just needs to channel that anger a little bit. I don't want to take it all out of him, but just channel it a little bit. And then he'll be a lot more calculated in the way he defends instead of just all in action, bang. Because that's what we're seeing in Liga. But I think that comes with experience. He's probably just overly keen to win the ball. So I just think that'll come with experience. But no doubt, profile-wise, he's got the profile to play in the Premier League, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. He's getting a lot of interest at this moment in time. And I don't think it will be straightforward, but I do think if there's a deal to be done there, regardless of whether we anticipate to go for someone in January or the summer, I'd be going for him now. If it's a case of getting him now to ensure that you get a player like that, you do it. It's as simple as that for me. But Chris, do you share the confidence of Daz? Are you already creating your own new signing kind of headline already?
Do you know what? I wish I was. I don't know. This feels, you know, every transfer window, you always have a signing where you think you're going to make it and you think you're going to get it, and it just doesn't happen. I just feel like this one stinks of like a Morgan Gibbs-White or a James Maddison. I'd love to get him. I would love to get him, but I just feel like it's too noisy. It feels like one that might fall away from us in the sense that there's a lot of interest in him. I mean, it's funny when Mango was saying, about him leading with the wrong leg and being a bit harsh in the tackle initially. It's funny because that's what Fabian Schär used to be like. Because if you remember, he used to always tackle. We used to say, didn't we, boys, on this channel? We used to always be like, why did he lunge in? Why is he so rash? And then that got coached out of him. So it wouldn't worry me in terms of bringing someone like that in because he's only still young, isn't he? And that can be coached out of him. But I would love to bring him in because he sounds really exciting. And from the very limited clips that I've seen of him, he looks really, really good. But I don't know. I'm not hanging my hat on him just yet. It's great that we're in the mix from allegedly, but it's not one that I'm thinking, yeah, we're definitely going to get him yet. But I hope Daz gets to show his poster off because it would be a great signing if we could make it.
Oh, don't worry about that. That is well stocked with posters. And signings. I'd love to go through that vault one day.
Past and present.
Yeah, we should do that. We should do that on one of our shows. Go back.
Madison makes an appearance, Pete.
Oh, okay. We scrap that. Yeah. Sorry, Antonio. Go on.
It's all right. No, I was just saying. I seen a comment there saying he would be a bargain at 25 million, and he's hit the nail on the head because for 25 million, you're not going to get somebody with his potential, with his attributes that you can coach to be better for 25 million. So for 25 million, I think that allows us, because if you think we sold Elliot Anderson and who else did we sell? Minter. And we got money for them. We're willing to spend 50, 60 million on Mark Gahey. So there's no reason why we can't spend 25 million on him and then look for a right winger. So it absolutely makes sense for going for somebody of his caliber in January.
No, I agree. It does make absolute sense. But he's not the only one. He's not the only one. There are other players out there that we're going to discuss, and there's a few that we haven't yet discussed on on the channel already, and I know you know a lot about these players, so we'll get to it. But we'll go to this one next. We've got Joel Ordóñez, if I'm pronouncing that right.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah. Talk to us about this young centre back playing for Bruges.
Well, he's somebody I watched when he was in Ecuador, when he was playing for Independiente, and his composure and his defending just blew us away. Do you know who he reminds us of a little bit? Antonio Rudiger. He's got his sort of aggression. He reminds us of him because he's got his sort of ability on the ball where he can find a pass, but it's not really consistent. But you know he's got the quality to do it. Yeah. He reminds us of him. He's again an aggressive front-footed defender. He's strong. He's got good positional awareness. He recycles possession extremely well. He's good with his short passing. It's crisp, clean, but his long distribution can be quite inconsistent, I find. I think that's the only thing that lets him down. But again, he's only 21 and he can grow into that. So that's something he can improve on. But one thing that worries me slightly about him is he's not very good aerially.
Okay.
He tends to misjudge the ball often and just get caught under the ball. So that's something, again, we're going to have to coach into him. But in terms of defending, he's mastered the art. He angles his body well. He keeps his body low, ready to change direction. He's got all the attributes when it comes to tackling, intercepting, anticipation. Got all those attributes. And if he irons out his ability to challenge in the air, just mastering his timing on that sort of thing, maybe the long balls and stuff, he's another gem in the making, absolutely. And there's a reason why there's Premier League clubs looking at him as well. Aston Villa, Wolves are looking at him. So there is interest in him, and that's because he's got quality. There's just, again, a few areas that need to be improved, but in terms of defending, and there's you seen him, he was part of that Club Bruges team that went quite successful in the Champions League, and he was a major part of that last season. So he's got the tools, he's got the attributes, just needs a bit of refinement, and you've got an absolute baller.
It's interesting because he's only 20, nearly 21 years old. So like you said, we expect players to have those little areas that are not quite almost like sort of rough diamonds, as we like to say. They never always come out at that young age perfect. You do get some players like that, but it's interesting. Some of the things that you've talked about, particularly his passing range. Boys, I'll come to you. We're looking for a Shaw replacement. So are you, in your mind, looking for the attributes that Shaw currently gives to be in our next right-hand centre-back that's coming into the club? What do you think about that, Chris?
I think, because I'm looking at Botman, and Botman.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, he's not slow, but I wouldn't say he's quick either. So I'm looking for a player who, probably has the passing ability of Shah, is very good in the air, and it was quick. And I know they don't come cheap, and there's not many of those about. But I think having a defender who's blessed with pace and somebody who is comfortable on the ball and basically complements Botman, that's essentially what we're looking for. But as you rightly said, Mango, we're going to be we should be looking for someone who you can develop. It doesn't have to be the finished article. If you've got those raw potential or those raw attributes, that's something that can be coached. And you're quite right when you say that Fabian Schär's got at least 1 year, if not possibly 2 years. It's someone to come in and learn the trades. It doesn't have to be someone who's straight away first team ready. And if that means that the price is going to be half, if not more, then it just makes sense, doesn't it? Look what Eddie Howe's done with the likes of Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento, brought them on, and in 2 or 3 years' time, they're gonna be colossal for us. So I think it would be good to bring in someone who's going to naturally replace Schär over time, but it's got to be someone who's quick, ideally someone who's good in the air and someone who's comfortable on the ball. That's what I would be going for.
I agree with that, but I feel like Botman's ability on the ball is quite underrated. And
Oh,
I think we're looking at it because we're not seeing Shaw alongside Botman. I think if Botman had been in this season, we wouldn't recognize Shaw's ability on the ball as much because Botman would be taking some of that responsibility.
Yeah.
So I think he doesn't. If we're bringing when you bring in signings, you want to build a successful team. You want to create profiles and partnerships on a pitch. So you don't necessarily need to buy the best player. You just need to buy the best player that'll complement his partner. And I think Botman has that ability to play out from the back, to be progressive out the back. So even if we do have slight concerns in one of these players in their ball playing ability and he needs to develop it a bit, Botman can take some of that responsibility. Do you get what I mean? We're not quite seeing that at the minute because Botman's been injured. But I think once he's back, we'll be like, whoa, his ball playing's quite good. Do you know what I mean? And that can take some responsibility off the person next to him. So I feel like, yes, I'm saying, yes, I need to improve in this area. I'm not saying the area is bad. Like Ordóñez's long balls, there's clips on YouTube where he's played unbelievable long balls in, but you'll only see the good things. You'll not see the bad things on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get some reality on it's not consistent, if that makes sense. And until they grow and develop, it probably won't be consistent. But the tools are definitely there.
I've just put it up on the screen, just looking at his passing stats here. And it's everything that you said, Antonio. You know, his pass completions up there is some of the best. His medium passing is up there with the best. His short and long passing, as you mentioned, it will need a little bit of work. But for a 20-year-old centre-back, it's not too shabby at all. It's not the worst thing in the world. And like you've said, and Chris has touched on as well, there's areas there that can be developed. And who better does than having Eddie Howe in kind of working with someone like the ability of Joel Ordóñez. You know, from what Antonio said, I know you've been sorted out internet problems, although it does look a little bit better now. I'm not going to lie. Would you take someone? Would you take someone like him from Club Brugge as a young centre back with potential?
Club Brugge and from that Belgian league, this stars do appear from there. But as soon as Antonio said about Joel, that he's heading ability, I kind of switched off because that's it.
I knew you were
ruthless. That's it. It's gone for me now.
It was a favor. Bring up his stats of his heading ability on that page. I just want to see if I'm right or wrong.
Second. It's all right. I need to get back into it.
I could be completely wrong. It's just what I've seen.
Defense is there.
I think it's right down at the bottom normally. There.
Yeah, so Ariel's not good. Not great.
So that was my only concern with him.
I mean,
he doesn't win.
Yeah, one a game.
See what I mean?
One a game. For a centre back, you'd expect to be in a lot more duels and to have won a lot more. You know,
you've got to consider the league he's playing in. There's probably more long balls in their league than there is in the Premier League as well. So you would expect them to be challenging a lot more in the air. And do you see what I mean?
Yeah. No,
so that would be my only big concern about Joel.
Carries brilliant, passing ability brilliant. Don't seem too much in the box or in the positions to score goals. I think he's only got one this season, if I'm right in thinking. But the passing element of the game and raw speed is definitely something of a positive that we could work on. But again, boys, it's just an option because I'm not going to lie. I'm going to go straight to this. We could have talked about Jumabal. We've talked about him on previous shows, so we'll kind of park him for a second. I want to talk about this guy. I'm interested in him because it's a player we've not talked about on the channel, but I've seen a little bit of him. A few people have talked about him, including yourself, Antonio.
I'm trying to think who you're going to bring up. Yeah,
I know.
Rayan Flamingo.
Oh yes, my boy.
Rayan Flamingo at PSV. Talk to us about this young player. He looks some talent, mate. I'm not going to lie. Talk to me about this player here.
Yeah, so he came through the Utrecht Academy in Holland, and he came through as a defensive midfielder, but he's been moved. He moved to PSV in the summer, and he moved to centre back, and he's just been simply outstanding. I mean, when you think of a centre back that's got it all, obviously still very raw because he's only 21. He's 22. Sorry, he's 6'3". He's built strong, nice broad shoulders. He's quick, athletic, strong. He's very good in the air. He's got amazing. What I like about him, because of his education of playing defensive midfield, he's learned that anticipation. He's learned that ability to be aware of his surroundings. Because that's what you need as a centre midfielder. You need wing mirrors, and he's got that. And I love his anticipation, his awareness, his ability on the ball, because he can receive from all angles. He's comfortable on both feet. And again, educating him as a defensive midfielder is giving him that ability to make the right pass, to make good decisions on the ball. And he's got that. I just think he's slowly becoming one of the most complete defenders going under the radar. And if I was Liverpool, and this is a big take, if I was Liverpool, I'd be looking at somebody like him as a Van Dijk replacement, because he's got that maturity in his game. And I just think he needs more recognition, because there's not many weaknesses I can give him. And that's a big bonus. He's an aggressive defender. He likes to step out and engage. There was one I watched in the opening game of the season. It might have been their Community Shield. PSV played Feyenoord, and that's the only time I've seen him be lost in a moment. He stepped out and the kid just moved the ball around him. But every other time I've seen him anticipate it absolutely spot on. Like, I've been amazed at just how good he's been. And I'm surprised he hasn't had more hype or many more links to his name, because he's just been, everything just comes natural to him. And I just think he would be an ideal, not exactly like Shaw, but he's well-rounded in there. His well-roundedness would be ideal for somebody like Newcastle United. I really do think he would be a very, very smart signing. It's
his birthday a couple of days ago. So happy birthday! Just turned 22. But a lot of people have really started to talk about him now as a potential. Of course, it's a great age. And yet he looks a real talent. And just before I come to the boys, something that you put out on socials a little bit earlier on today is that you did your own comparison to our right centre back.
Yeah, I know what you're going to bring up.
And so we'll put it onto the screen, because, of course, with him, potentially taking the mantle from Fabian Schär, we need to see what the comparisons are. And comparisons are very, very interesting. So we can see Flamingo in blue and Fabian Schär in sort of pinky color there. So just talk us through this image, Antonio, when comparing the two.
Yeah, so before we get into the ins and outs in image, you've got to compare the leagues. Obviously, Shaw's playing in a more difficult league than the Eredivisie, so I understand that. But if it was that easy in the Eredivisie, every single player would be doing these sorts of numbers, and they're not. So he's obviously got quality to play in a higher league, which is shown in the statistics. But like I say, I mentioned he's well-rounded in this. And this is exactly why, because he's carrying the ball. He's taken out that circle pretty much. His ability to pass the ball. He's got progressive passes in his game. He's got forward passes in his game. What I like about you can look at defensive actions and he ranks highly on it, but I would rather look at the percentage of duels won rather than defensive actions. And his percentage can't get any higher. So not only is he engaging, he's winning the vast majority of his duels. And again, you can say again, it's in a slower, probably less quality league. I understand that, but if it was that easy, everybody would have nearly 100% win percentage in these defensive duels. Like, I think I was looking at it before, in these defensive duels, he's winning 98.5% of them, which is insane no matter what league you're playing. Like, I just think his well-roundedness is something that can complement the whole team. He's got the ability to progress the play forwards, but he's also got the ability to play forward passes. And without sounding like you know it all, a progressive pass is different to a forward pass, because a progressive pass is something that changes if we're section off the field into thirds, it puts the team into a different third. So that's why you probably want more progressive passes rather than forward passes, because forward passes can just be one from a goalkeeper to a centre back. It doesn't really move the team forwards. Whereas a progressive pass, if you rank highly on progressive passes, you really impact in the game. And you can see ranks highly on progressive passes, which is another added bonus, especially for a team like Newcastle, who want to be direct, want to be fluid in possession, want to really be on the front foot when they're attacking. It's an absolute ideal replacement for Fabian Schär.
Boys, want to get your opinions on this. Obviously, you may not have watched him or seen him before, but just the small sample size of what Antonio's talked about and the stats that we can see there. Does this young man interest you in any way? Daz, we'll come to you first.
Well, I'd never even heard of him up until 5 minutes ago. So, look, on paper, he looks good. He'd have to pass the eye test, really, as well. But yeah, it'd be interesting to check him out now. Check out a few videos of him, or see when he's playing next, and maybe catch a game and see. So he is playing in the back. He's playing centre back, not in defensive midfielder role mainly, is he, Antonio?
Yeah, that's right. Pretty much he's played all of these games at PSV.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, he only signed for them at the start of the season as a centre-back. He played the majority of his senior career last season as centre-back. He played a few occasions in defensive midfield. But during his youth days, that's when he was a defensive midfielder. So I kind of like that, because it's given him more game intelligence. That's what you need. Like I always say in academy football, do you know how football's becoming very systematic? A lot of people want to play in the systems.
Yeah.
I hope academy of football still, when they're coaching these players, they don't coach them to be a system player. They just coach them to be a game player, because then they've got that versatility to play different positions and they understand the game a bit better. And I think that's what we've seen with Rayan Flamingo. And I was tweeting about him last year as well. I said, like, this boy's, what he's doing at Utrecht is crazy. Like, he's putting out insane numbers. But again, the eye test, you're right. They've got to pass the eye test more than anything. And this is something I'm going to touch upon about Juma Bar, about the eye test when you look at his stats. But Rayan Flamingo, for me, passes the eye test, because he's got... The thing about these players, they're young enough to be molded into a player you want, whether that be, let's say you've got a covering defender or you've got an aggressive defender. The attributes allow them to play both roles. And this is what I tweeted out yesterday. I find the same in Juma Bar, Rayan Flamingo, and Khusanov. You can mold them into the type of defender you want, because the attributes are very well rounded. And that's a positive with Eddie Howe, because if you look at, I don't think Eddie Howe gets the credit he deserves for his ability to coach players into better players. When you think of Lewis Hall, when you think Alexander Isak's come on leaps and bounds, Joe Linton's come on leaps and bounds, even Jacob Murphy is starting to deliver. So Eddie Howe's ability to coach players, to coach their weaknesses, is unbelievable. So, like, I just think Rayan Flamingo, for me, if I'm being honest, probably if we're looking for somebody to come in and hit the ground running, he would be my preferred choice.
Chris, what do you make of Rayan Flamingo from what you've heard? Sounds pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like Daz, I think I found out about him about 7 minutes ago now, if we're doing the estimate. But no, he looks fantastic, and I agree with what Mango said in terms of, you know, yes, the stats will probably be a little bit dishevelled because we're talking about the Eredivisie, but even so, fantastic stats, and even if they were to drop a little bit, they're still very, very high, aren't they? In terms of, you know, what he can do, and I think as well what you mentioned. I keep calling you Mango, but it is Antonio, isn't it?
No, I was calling it Mango. I get that as well.
That's the Mango. It's a picture of the Mango.
Call it anything.
When you were talking about clubs, you know, training players to be actual players rather than specific positions, we've kind of seen that with Lewis Hall, haven't we? In terms of he was a central defensive midfielder or central midfielder, if you like, and then he's converted to a left back. So the fact that Flamingo was a central defensive midfielder, it kind of shows how comfortable he will be on the ball because that's what he's grown up doing. So those progressive passes, that's kind of what you need in a modern day centre back, isn't it? It's not just about, you know, keep the ball out the net. How often do we? And we've seen it a lot with Sven Botman. He can find those killer passes. It's not just a simple 5-10 yard pass to the right or the left. It's trying to find that killer pass through the middle, which then puts you on a counter attack, and it's so key. But to find players who are comfortable on the ball, who can also actually defend as centre backs is rare. So if you know, it's worth taking a risk on a player like that, because if you can find a gem and someone again who you've got the ability to be able to coach, it's brilliant, because then all of a sudden, you know, you're potentially looking at another John Stones, aren't you? Everyone lauds John Stones for how comfortable he is on the ball. He can make those progressive passes. That can make all the difference. So I mean, mate, I'm sold. I mean, mate, he looks absolutely brilliant. Like how much do you think it would cost to prize him out of the Eredivisie?
I don't think it would cost that much because he's in the Eredivisie. But having said that, PSV are probably the Ajax, probably the richest club. I reckon. Now, this is me just assuming you'd probably get him for about 30 mil. 30 mil, and I think you'd get him. Because I think if I just have I don't know how much I actually paid for him. I don't think it was that
9
much.
million euros. 9 million euros, mate.
There you are. You put in 25 to 30 million euros and you'll be able to get him.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
His current value, and you can only go off like Transfermarkt or SofaScore, whatever it is the current value in just under 17 million euros.
Yeah.
Obviously that's based off half a season. But I'm looking at the Khusanov situation, and I'm looking at his rise. I'm looking at Flamingo's rise, and they are very similar in terms of how much people are now talking about them. And so you're probably looking at the same ballpark figure. The only difference is between the two is that Lens need to sell because of their TV rights and lack of money. They actually need to sell this month or at some point. Some of their players go, whereas PSV flying at the top of the league, probably going to go and win the league again. I'd be shocked if they didn't, and so they're more. I imagine they're more inclined to keep going.
I agree.
But again, another one for anyone that's not aware of Ryan Flamingo. Hopefully, you are now, and we'll keep an eye on his progression moving forward, because he does look an absolute talent. I'm gonna switch gears, guys, and the reason why is that I hadn't planned, or we hadn't planned. Antonio hadn't planned. I think none of us had planned to even talk about potentially a direct link between any of these two players today. But Craig Hope had other thoughts, and as Craig Hope put about an hour before we came on to the show. Craig Hope's confidential piece says that Newcastle are in the hunt for Tyler Dibling, and we are currently monitoring the situation of young attacking midfielder at Man City, James McAtee, who, if anyone saw the game against Leicester City when he came off the bench, he had a monstrous cameo. And if you're we'll get into it. we'll get into it. But the two players, Tyler Dibling and James McAtee, are players that Newcastle are looking at as the new year's turned in for a potential transfer, which is massive news. Now, where do you want to start, Antonio? In terms of which player? I imagine you know both of these players relatively well. But is there any particular player out of the two that you want to talk about first?
Let's start with Tyler Dibling.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, Tyler Dibling. Yeah, he's a player, isn't he? I mean, just what he's doing in that Southampton team already, you can see the quality he's got. When you're standing out in a team like that in your first season in the Premier League, you know you've got ability. And I kind of think he looks like an Eddie Howe player, somebody that's technically good in possession, can glide past players for fun. He gives us those Grealish vibes at times. And I know I'm not just saying that because of his socks, like his ability on the ball just to glide. Well, when Grealish was at Aston Villa, when his ability just to glide past players and just transition teams from one area of the pitch to the other is incredible. And like I say, when you're doing that in a team like Southampton, considering how poor they've been this season, you know you've got ability. Silky dribbler, his stop and start movements, his ability to carry the ball over large spaces, and he's technically excellent as well. And he likes to bring others into the game, which what I like as well. So I think he would definitely be suited to an Eddie Howe system. And the thing with these, I'll bring McAtee into this as well. They're both versatile. They both can play attack midfielder on the wing. They've both played as a striker before. So they've got that versatility. And the game level doesn't really drop wherever they play. Although the thing about McAtee, for me, this is just my personal thing. I think he's better centrally when he's playing as an attack midfielder than what he is out wide. I just think he can impact the game a lot more, and he can use his vision to break down those low blocks and just be technically excellent in that final third. So for me personally, I prefer him in the middle of the pitch. And we're seeing a lot of him in the middle of the pitch when he was in his youth days. Yeah. And I kind of feel like he's probably looking at Cole Palmer, looking at Morgan Rogers and thinking, I want to be like that. I want to start playing consistently. Do you know what I mean? Because he was in the youth academy with Cole Palmer, with Morgan Rogers. I think he won the youth cup with both of them were in the side. Cole Palmer scored in the final. So I think he's probably looking at them and thinking, I'm 22 now. It's about time I move. And what better place to go in an environment than Newcastle? Because the environment and the squad Newcastle are building, it's a place where young players can develop, where they can make a few errors. Yes, the fans might get frustrated at times. That happens everywhere. But they can take those risks on the ball. And Eddie Howe will allow them to take those risks, which is a positive about Eddie Howe. And I think with players like Tyler Dibling, like James McAtee, you don't want to take away their ability to affect games, because that's what they're good at. Being in that final third, being creative, bringing players into the game. And I actually do think these would be very good signings. I think with James McAtee, he can kind of provide Bruno some cover. So when Bruno does need a rest, he's got that, because Bruno's playing that little bit forward at the minute, and we're bringing out his vision, we're bringing out his creativity, his imagination. And James McAtee could do that. When we're 2-0 up in a game, he can come on and just give Bruno that little bit of extra respite that he might need. I just think it could be really smart signings, because they're both coming out of the City Academy. You know they're going to be players. You know they've got something about them. So I really do actually rate these two links.
Yeah. Look, firstly, with Tyler Dibling, boys, we've seen a bit of him, having watched Southampton a few times this season. Looks a real exciting talent. And let's not forget, lads, a player that we've talked about on the Fully Loaded Transfer shows, windows gone by. So he is a player that we've looked at. But, you know, would Tyler Dibling, right wing, Would he be your go-to? Is my question to both of you, Daz and Chris. If you had the option, we know how coveted that right wing spot is in terms of what we need to sign next.
Just bring that up.
Would he be your guy that you would go for if you had the opportunity in the window?
Just what David has put there as well. I remember that
I was at that game
from 2 years ago, David. But he's got the were you? I don't know. I'd love to see him rocking up at Newcastle. We wanted him then after that, but if it all depends on what price we get it for. Again, if you look at the transfer market, it says 22 million or something like that. But it's going to cost an awful lot more to get him. I love Roony as well. We'll probably get onto him too at some stage. But and on James McAtee, I haven't seen an awful lot of him. But then I think of Alfie Harrison as well, who we got from Man City, and we haven't seen an awful lot of him either. Maybe a different level again, but sign Tyler Dibling up if we can get him for a reason. But I just think there'll be a lot of clubs after him as well, because he's made that breakthrough now. He's doing it in the Premier League, and if we get in the mix for that, why not? But I would love to see him in Newcastle.
Chris? The only concern about Tyler Dibling is when he did leave Southampton, he struggled. He kind of got homesick kind of thing. I know it was a while back and he's probably matured a bit more, but he went to Chelsea and he really struggled. He was getting the game time, but he just couldn't get into any rhythm and he just didn't feel comfortable in that environment. That could be a concern, but he's probably matured by then, to be honest. But that would be something that's something that when you're looking at young players, clubs look at to see what they're going to like coming out of their safe zone. And that's what clubs look at. So that is something that Newcastle would definitely look at. Why did it break down at Chelsea? What happened, etc. Because now that he went back to Southampton, he hit the ground running again. So I don't know how he would be leaving his comfort zone and putting himself in a different environment.
Chris, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
I don't know. It's a tough one because Tyler Dibling's got lots of potential. He's probably been there shining light at Southampton this season, hasn't he? And he looks like a player who could really, really go far. And I think under Eddie Howe, would bring out the best in him. So I wouldn't be opposed to the signing. He just feels like more of a project in terms of he would be great to have as your understudy to your first choice right winger. I think if we were to get rid of Murphy and Miggy and we were to bring in Tyler Dibling and a first choice right winger, I think it'd be perfect. My only concern is playing week in, week out. And then obviously Antonio's mentioned there, about the fact that he got homesick last time he left. And I think he'd be a little bit of a risk. On a plus though, if we did come calling for him, I was looking at the league table before, and I can't believe how cut adrift Southampton are. So it could be that Southampton might think, do you know what? If we're going to maximise his price, now would be the best time to do it. Because I think if and when Southampton go down, the price would probably go down a little bit as well. Whereas if they were to maximise it now and get the full whack for them, it now might actually be a good time for Southampton to sell him, because obviously when he becomes a championship player, they probably won't attract as much money. Now would be the best time to sell him because they'll get the maximum price. I don't know. I think he'd be a player you'd like on your books, but it would depend on how much. Because if we were spending 30+ million for him, is he going to be the one who comes in first teamer, playing week in, week out? I'm not sure. I don't know if I'd rather someone who's a bit more experienced, but the talent's definitely there.
Yeah, he's a talented lad. I think because of his rise, like you boys have just talked about, his price will be high. For me, I saw reports of his price being like 40-45 million. Like it's crazy money. Like I would think a reasonable price would be anything around sort of, because of his potential and his age, great age, anywhere between sort of 25 to 30 million would be a fair price for him. And like you say, I think Southampton are down. I think most of their own fans would admit that they're down at this point. I think it would be a smart move to reinvest that and maybe look at signing a few players in the window that not only will fight for them, but you can take them down with you, and they'll do your job at trying to get you back up the other end. And in that sort of succession planning, bringing in some players, the manager's new. The manager hasn't even had a chance to bring in his own players yet. So he might be thinking about that for the future. So I think that would be a fair sort of opinion to have. But James McAtee, what do you think about him, Antonio? Ideally, I know you've talked about him a little bit, but do you think Man City would be crazy enough to let him leave again? It kind of screams Cole Palmer to me.
I see where you're coming from, but they've got Claudio Cherki coming in from River Plate, and I think they're going to prioritize him because they can sell McAtee for 100% profit and that'll comply with PSR rules, and you're not going to spend loads of money on Claudio Cherki and not play him at all. So for me, I think absolutely James McAtee will leave Man City, but it's just where. Now, where I prefer McAtee playing is as an attack midfielder. We don't really play with an attack midfielder. We kind of play with a kind of a solid base three in midfield. So that's the only reason why I think his talent-wise is undeniable. But for our system, what we play under Eddie Howe, I feel like there's better options out there. And if we are looking for a central player, somebody that could potentially be a long-term replacement to Bruno, for example, I would be dipping into the Bundesliga market, going to Hoffenheim and prizing away Tom Bischof from Hoffenheim, who's out of contract in the summer. He would be my Bruno replacement if I was looking to bring in somebody of that caliber. That's what I would be doing. If I was sporting director, that's what I would be doing.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Over James McAtee. Because he's got that ability where he's better defensively. He's got that he plays exactly like Bruno, put it that way, where he's got that ability to be aggressive defensively. I don't think James McAtee has that. He's more of a technically elegant, forward-thinking player. Whereas Bruno tends to cover a lot of ground, work rate, and that's what you get with Tom Bischof. And I think Tom Bischof, this is his first season in the Bundesliga. I think next season, a lot of people are going to be talking about him.
Okay, new name that we weren't expecting to hear today. So another one to keep an eye. Is it Tom Bischof?
Tom Bischof, yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's out of contract in the summer, and Bayer Leverkusen, Bayern Munich, all them are wanting to sign him. So you know you've got talent if the big German clubs are after you.
Yeah. What nationality is he?
German.
Just doesn't sound German at all, does he?
No, it doesn't, does it? Yeah, he's German. He's been playing for Germany's under 21s. But he started this season incredibly. He's been one of the obviously you've got your Musialas, players like that, Florian Wirtz. He's been just behind them in terms of like influence this season.
I thought you said Tom Bishop. I was thinking that doesn't sound German.
I think I did say Bishop at one point, to be honest. Bishop.
Brother John
Bishop. Centre midfield. He's had good performances, Antonio.
He's a very good games. If you go on his heat map there, look at the ground he covers, and he's playing in more an advanced role. He covers a large amount of the ground, and he's just a great, intelligent footballer. He's like a midfielding playmaker.
Yeah. So young lad, 19, 3-goal contributions. But you look at those level of performances against the likes of Leipzig, Dortmund as well. There was a performance in here that was really, really good against Freiburg. Just last month.
Super consistent.
Yeah. Mönchengladbach again. So he's, he might not be getting those numbers. And there's this obsession. I'm really glad. I can't remember who said it, whether it was Daz or Chris, but one of you said about the eye test. And it really annoys me how so many people, not necessarily anyone that follows this channel, but just social media in general, they're all just obsessed with stats. Stats is great.
Yeah.
Stats are good. They're a good addition to what football is now. But it's not everything. You look at those performances. He's clearly a talented player. He's clearly a player that is doing well for his team, Hoffenheim, and putting in regular good performances. But there'll be some people out there that would look at him and go, 3-goal contributions, not great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and we're completely disregarding off the back of that. So it's really good to see that, he might not have the numbers, but his performances are very impressive. So another player there, guys, lads and lasses in the chat as well.
Hey.
Tom Bischof. Yes.
Well,
Go on.
Those be the same people that were disregarding Tonali because he wasn't scoring goals?
Absolutely.
And the same people, when we first signed Isak, I said he would be a top talent for it because I knew his ability, and I got pelters on Twitter saying he's only scored 4 goals last season, and I got pelters for it. But I said, and look at him now, he's probably the best striker in Europe, or one of. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of always look at goals and assists.
Definitely not. Definitely. Just on James McAtee for a second. From what you've just explained to us about his situation, and of course, I can't pronounce his name right, Echerevi, the Argentinian that's coming in. I think he's going to play for the under-21s or the under-19s Argentinian, and then he's going to be arriving at Man City around sort of February time. And so now you saying that has actually made me think they could well cash in.
Yeah,
cash in.
I think, and it's not because he's a bad player.
No,
it's probably because he's probably thinking, I need to find a way out of here now.
Yeah,
because he's not getting the game time his talent deserves. And if there's an opportunity to bring in a McAtee and you can try in some sort of way bring him into your system, absolutely, because there's definitely a talented player there. Like, definitely is, but it's will Eddie Howe compromise some of his system to fit in James McAtee? Although James McAtee, he has played a few occasions as a central midfielder, but I just prefer him when he's a little bit further forward, in my opinion.
That Bruno 8 would be a good spot for him, where you're playing in that little pocket in between Isak and almost whoever's playing on right wing. You see them, the type of spaces Bruno picks up the ball. You could see McAtee coming in those type of spaces and exploiting. It's a really interesting one. You know what? If Newcastle genuinely are linked with him and they are monitoring the situation, as Craig Hope pointed out earlier on this evening, if anyone hasn't seen it, people are just tuning in now because we've had a number of new viewers pop up just while the show's been on. With the situation with James McAtee, as Craig Hope has put there, he is on the radar, and in his piece he has said that we are monitoring the situation of a fee around 25. If we're looking at that player and we're thinking 25 million for him, clearly Newcastle United have got a plan in place.
Yes.
They've clearly got a plan in place and a position for where they want him to be. So another one that's very, very interesting. Now, I know we've got a number of questions that we want to come to to you, Antonio, with, but
Yeah.
just a couple of more players to talk about. We've got way more players on this on the stream, by the way, but we're probably not going to get through them all tonight.
I'll come back on another time if you want.
Perfect.
I don't mind.
Dream scenario, mate. Dream scenario. Yeah. But a couple of other players, thinking about that right wing position, is a player that we all know very well. And a few people didn't know until the other day, 6 months left on his contract. Roony Bardghji of Copenhagen, currently recovering from an ACL injury, thought to be back quite soon. 6 months left on his deal. How before his injury, Antonio, how good was he, and what was his kind of ceiling in terms of his potential?
Enormous potential. I mean, you've just got to see what he did to Man United in
I put
last
that
season
on purpose, by the way,
and things like that. Exactly.
The pain of Garnacho.
He's got enormous potential. Now, look at Garnacho, the pain in his face. He stole his thunder. But when it comes to dribbling, pace, ability, body orientation, manipulation with the ball, it's effortless to him. It's absolutely effortless. Now, he's left-footed, plays on the right wing. He's best suited in a 4-3-3, I feel, which is exactly what Eddie Howe plays. And his movement off the ball is good. He's comfortable trying to get in behind. He's comfortable coming to show for the ball. He's comfortable in tight spaces. His manipulation with the ball allows you to just unlock defenses, get out of danger. So comfortable under pressure. And what I like about him the most is his creativity. He can score and create. He can create for himself, or he can create for your others. And they're the types of players that can be the difference between winning and losing the game. He's not the same player, but I put Isak in that category where he can create a moment out of nothing for himself. And Ronnie's got that ability. And yes, it'll take him time to probably get over his injury, but because he's a free signing, and it would be a no-brainer to me, because even if it doesn't work out, let's say, might not feel comfortable in the environment, might not just be happy in his place, whatever it might be, he's going to have a future value because of his age, because of his ability. So on a free signing, if we're looking to comply for PSR, these are the types of signings and hidden gems you want to be bringing in your squad, because the reward completely outweighs the risk. Completely, because we know he's got ability. He's done it in European competitions. And yes, he's playing in Copenhagen. You might say the standard in Denmark's not very good. I get that. But from the eye test, he's shown that just from his technical abilities, tactical ability, that he can make a difference in the final third. And that's what you need to win games.
Absolutely. I have to apologize to Foxy. I did know that with his contract situation. You know what threw me? There was a list of sort of like free transfers in January, and he was on it. So for some reason, I just assumed he had 6 months left, but he doesn't. His contract runs out December 2025, so just before 2026 kicks in. But his market value is around 9 million euros anyway. He was rumored to be, when teams were looking at him, being sold for as less as 10 million euros. That was when he was at his pomp. So he won't be a massive fee, whoever signs him, regardless of his injury or not, which just adds to the interest of wanting to sign a player like him. But Daz, we've talked about him a lot on the channel. I know he's a player that you would love at Newcastle United, and Callum Wilson's already been doing some groundwork. He was training with him a few weeks back.
Agent Wilson.
Rehabilitation. Agent Wilson. Talk to us about him, Daz. Why would you want him to be our right winger?
Well, I just remember him seeing him a bit in the Champions League, and I just kind of this going back well over a year now, and just kind of I think he did this. Did he score against Man United? He definitely played really well against them, and that sold it for me. And then from then about this time last year, no, before I bought him on Football Manager, so that's why he kind of stuck in my head. It's just a pity he did get the injury, but I think if he didn't get that injury, he'd be at a different club now. So I think there's an opportunity for us to go and test the market there, and with Paul Mitchell in there, I'm sure he's comparing like go for the likes of Roony or pay 40 million for Tyler Dibling, and then trying to balance to try to mix and match where we spend any cash we do have for January. So I think if we weren't to strike soon on him, he's back playing in Copenhagen again. He's in his shop window again then, and his value may increase again, even though his contract is running out. But I don't know. I think I'd go for him. I'd definitely give him a chance. And as António says, with his contract running down, that strike now while we get a good price for him. And if I think we could recoup the money back, whatever we were to pay for him, we could probably recoup it back. And if he was to work out, his value increases for who knows down the line we could do something with him again. If we want to switch him out or something. So yeah. Looks good to me. No, and Foxy asked the question: do we know when he's back from injury? No, I know he's on the road to recovery, but can't be that far away now. It's a while since he was training with Wilson.
I would, if I'm guessing, I'd probably say around February, March time. You'd probably see him back playing. That's just a guess, but it was just based on what Daz has literally just said about the fact that from when he was doing his sort of like rehabilitation stuff with Wilson, that was before Wilson had come back from injury, played 4 games, and then got injured again. So he's had a bit of time.
He'll be back before Wilson.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? But yeah, Chris, Bardghji, would you see it as a risk with his ACL? Would you consider it a risk him being the main right wing guy that we bring in, or is it sort of what we've said in terms of his value, a bit of a no-brainer? Where do you sit with that, mate?
Yeah, it's a good point, Pete, because it's always a risk, isn't it, when you sign a player, who's has a nasty ACL injury, particularly if you've not seen them like kind of perform before you sign them. I mean, we had a similar thing with Tino Livramento, didn't we? But we saw Tino Livramento make a comeback. And touch wood, he's been absolutely fine since he signed for Newcastle. But it's definitely a risk. But then I suppose you've got to weigh up the risk, haven't you? Because if you're bringing in a high quality player and you may be getting a bit of a discount on them, it's whether or not the medical team think it's worth the risk. I think if his rehabilitation's gone well, you could be potentially picking up a bargain, couldn't you? But it is a risk, and I suppose you're right in what you're saying, Pete, in terms of, is that a risk we can afford to make? If we already had a top right winger in, and he was coming in, to challenge that top right winger, you'd say, oh yeah, take the risk. But if he's going to be one of 2, possibly 3 signings, is it a risk too much to take? Given that we're in a really, really good position, aren't we? We're in a really good position, and this January window for me is about bringing in players who can have an immediate impact. And you don't want to sign a player who then possibly breaks down or doesn't quite reach the level that they once were at. And then you think, oh, maybe we should have gone with a more sure thing. I don't know. Maybe he's one for the summer, I would suggest.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Look, there's some questions in the chat.
There's a lot.
Yeah. I tell you what, let's leave it there. We've got other players that we could have talked about, and maybe they come up in the questions. I haven't seen the questions myself, so let's fire away with some questions for Antonio.
Antonio, I'm going to try and fly through these as quickly as I can, mate. Because
that's fine.
Because you're on, mate. The chat are just going mad. They're all throwing mad.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing. I don't mind.
It's a brilliant.
I appreciate it.
And you be as succinct as you want, mate. It just depends depends on the player, doesn't it? Tom Dixon asks, is there anything on Newcastle looking to move for the young St Mirren striker, Evan Mooney? I know we got linked the other day. Is that something you've heard, or do you know much about Evan Mooney?
I know a little bit about him, to be honest. I haven't watched him as much as I've watched other youth players because it's hard to watch Scottish games for some reason. So I haven't seen him as much, but I have spoken to people about him, and they tell me that attribute-wise, he's got everything: pace, ball striking, technical, and they say like he's got this ability just to strike a ball with no backlift. Just needs no backlift, gets power on it, bang, straight in. I haven't watched him a lot, I can't lie, but from what I've heard, he's an absolute talent, and I have heard from people I know that Scottish football shite.
That's what we thought you meant when you said, you know,
we're all thinking that we were. But from people I've spoke to, there is genuine interest from Newcastle. Whether that turns into a signing, I'm not so sure. But there is genuine interest.
Interesting. And this player, this is a player I've not heard of, but I'm hoping you may have heard of him, Antonio. And the question comes from Guybrush Threepwood. And he says, a question for Antonio. What do you make of Emmanuel Omega? I reckon the lad is going to become a top number 9. Adebayor meets Drogba vibes.
You know what? I can't remember what club he was at last season. Well, before he moved to the French league. I can't remember the club, but when I was watching him, like, it blew my mind, just his athleticism, his physicality, just everything. And I was like, this boy has got it. He fell away a little bit since his move, but he looks like he's starting to find his feet again. But if you can get a hold of it, sometimes it's all about, for players like him, you look at the attributes he's got, his profile, rather than his technical ability, because you can improve that. So you look at the profile, while he's big, strong, physical, he has unbelievable pace. And there's a couple of players I want to mention off the back of this as well. And he can finish as well. He lacks a bit of consistency, but if you can bring that out of him, like Alexander Isak, you've got an absolute gem. So it's just about finding these little gems, seeing if you can get them for a little snippet deal, bring them into your club and just develop them. And he's one that could actually, I get what he means by the Adebayor vibes, because that's the vibes he brings. He's got that quality. And there's a couple of players I want to mention off the back of this. And there's 2 other players. I tweeted about one before, and it was Thierno Barry. That was a ball last season, and he's at Villarreal this season. Versatile, can play left wing, right wing, centre forward. He's 6'5", but with crazy athleticism. He's 6'5", and he moves like Alexander Isak. It's crazy. He's a big, strong, physical presence. And he's moved to Villarreal as a Nicholas Jackson replacement. And if I tweeted out about him earlier, and his stats when he's a centre forward to when he's a left winger to when he's a right winger, he scores goals no matter where he plays. And he's just sheer presence, physicality is something that you want to bring into your side because the potential is enormous. You might not reach that potential, but they're the types of players that can do well in the Premier League if you give them the opportunity. And there's someone similar at Palmer at the minute that I tweeted out about when he was in his youth days, and I was like, this kid's going to be a baller. And that's, I'm forgetting his name, Bonnie Ange.
Yeah, we talked to him the other day with Lee, didn't we? Yeah, come up in conversation.
I've forgotten his name. I'm going to have to Google it.
We did. Is it a free word?
And Johan Bonny.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
The lad from Palmer you're on about.
Yeah, from Palmer.
Yeah. And Johan Bonny. Yeah.
That's it. And Johan Bonny. Again, I want to mention they're still incredibly raw, but at his age, it's 21 now. The from the eye test, it's all there. physical, quick, can run in behind, needs to improve his link-up play a little bit, but the idea and the message he tries is all there. Like, the methods are all there to develop it. You just need to give him the opportunity to develop it. And this is the type of profile you want to be bringing in, because I keep on referring back to it. Alexander Isak is a perfect example. He had a stunning season in his first season at Real Sociedad. His second season didn't go quite well. He moved to Newcastle, and he's just elevated his game just by good coaching, good environment. And these are the types of profiles where you want to take a risk on them, because if you can develop them into stars, they're just going to become stars for your club. And these, like I mentioned, these are the type of profiles like a Menga, like an Anjon Bonny, like a Barry from Villarreal. These are the types of players you want to be looking at if you're looking to bring in young players with extraordinary physicalities that have good, decent technical abilities that you can improve. So yeah, I agree with completely what he's saying, because I can see, you can see the vision and where they can get to. It's just giving them that opportunity and that correct platform for them to do it.
Sometimes it's worth taking a punt, isn't it? Especially if you get them at a reasonable price.
Exactly. And like, I don't think these would cost anything near where Isak costs.
No.
What Isak costs us, like 60 million. I think you can get the majority of these for half that price.
Yeah. Well, talking of players, and like these types of shows, Antonio, are made for Foxy. Foxy loves these, and Foxy always brings brilliant names to the.
Foxy's my
show.
type of guy.
Yeah, he's just some of the names he comes out with. He's actually put 2 in, so I'm just going to reel them off, and you just tell me if there's one there that you think, oh yeah, I know there's one that we've mentioned. Foxy says a lot of top prospects that will contract soon. So you've got Tom Bischof, who we were talking about before.
I swear, Foxy's been looking at my Twitter. He's definitely been looking at my Twitter, because these are all players that I've mentioned.
Yeah. So he's mentioned Rayan, he's mentioned Thiago Fernandez, Juan Jimenez, and he also mentions, but his favourite one is Christian Mosquera.
Yeah,
Mosquera from Valencia.
He's mentioned him a lot. He mentioned him a lot as his option.
Yeah, I like him a lot. But we'll speak about the first options first. I mean, I've already touched upon Tom, so we'll bypass him. But Ryan, do you know what vibes he gives me? I don't know whether he's coming out of contract in this summer, and he gives me the, and I'm not trying to say he's going to be as good as him or anything like that, but the vibes he gives us is Adriano vibes. Like, just powerful runner, big, strong, physical. He doesn't look like he can play. I think his future is going to lie as a centre forward, but at the minute he's playing as a right winger. But I think once he fills out a little bit more, he's going to be a centre forward. That's my prediction. But in terms of, like, he doesn't look like your natural winger. He's big, physical. He's just so direct, and he's a powerful runner. He just bulldozes through players, but he's got the technical quality to go around them as well. So he's got a little bit of both. He can finish, comfortable on. He's left-footed, okay on his right, but when he strikes a ball with his left foot, you know it's hit. Like that sort of player, and he's just a wonderful. He's got a good balance of technical ability and raw physical ability, and that's what I love about him, because he's not your typical Brazilian winger that comes out when you think of like Vinicius Jr. or somebody like that. That's more of a flair player. He's got a little bit of that flair, but the physicality he brings when he's on the ball is frightening. And there's a similar player like him called Loran Lucas, who's also Brazilian, coming out of the Brazilian leagues, who's quite similar to him as well. More of a powerful runner rather than a technical dribbler. That makes sense. Whereas Thiago Fernandez is more of a technical dribbler, very silky on the ball. He's again coming out of contract, and I tweeted about him just in this past week. I can't remember what day it is, but he's your technical dribbler. He plays more on the right wing. He plays more on the left wing, sorry. But again, he's coming out the academy, and he's coming out the Vélez Starsfield Academy, and he's just hit the ground running. since coming into the senior team. He's got something like 5 goals, 4, this off the top of my head, last time I looked, 5 goals, 4 assists, or there might be the other way around. But his creativity in the final third is extraordinary. Unlocks defenses. He's just a wonderful, intelligent footballer. Plays between the lines, good under pressure. Manipulation of the ball, manipulation of the body. Wonderful, technical, good footballer that could do well in the Premier League. Again, if he's given the license to do so, but he's definitely shown the signs that he's more than capable of playing in Europe. Similar with Juan Gimenez, because he's somebody that I was actually going to do a video on my Twitter, because I don't think Feely's getting the recognition he deserves. His ability to play with the ball is unbelievable. And we're going to touch on this on the next, what he's asked about next time. But what I like about Juan Gimenez is, do you know when you get those Argentina defenders that they've got that grittiness? Do you know, and like Gimenez of Atletico Madrid, where they've got that gritty ability just to be feisty, and he's got that, but he's also very composed and measured in possession. So he's got a nice blend of the two. And that's what I like about him. And when he's transitioning into senior football, he doesn't look out of place at all. And it's a good standard he's playing at as well. So I'll not be surprised if he does make his way to Europe at all. Not one bit.
Sticking with Foxy for a second. We asked him, Foxy, the question, when is he coming unloaded? If it appears on the screen. He answered that, and it's when we signed Murillo from Nottingham Forest, and he wants Wolfie to come on for that one.
Deal. Done.
He fits into your category as well. He's only 22, so great age, Antonio. Fits into the under 23. Not having it. Wake up news though.
And
He's not having it. I did see Wolfie in the chat. I didn't like this, but I'll put it up. What are your thoughts on Elliot Anderson? Does he have a future in the Premier League? Terrible.
You know what?
Terrible.
Terrible.
He's on the wind up.
He's winded us up.
I know he is, because I was speaking to him not that long ago about this. And you know what? Elliot Anderson, he was starting to see the Elliot Anderson was seen in the academy.
Yeah.
Like, when he came into Newcastle's senior team, he was kind of playing out of position slightly. He was getting moved over slightly to the left, and he couldn't really find his rhythm. But what I've seen from the academy days is exactly what I'm seeing in Nottingham Forest. And credit to Nottingham Forest for bringing it out to him, and credit to his maturity as well, just to go to Nottingham Forest and hit the ground running. But yeah, I'm kind of disheartened about that. I didn't think he would do as well as, I'll hold my hands up, I didn't think he would do as well as what he's done. But the quality he's shown in possession, the confidence he's got, and it's another thing where if you put confidence into a player, it just elevates the game to another level. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Elliot Anderson. I think he's been absolutely tremendous for Forest.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Just a reminder, Chris, before you go on to the next question, and because my intro is working now, I can speak properly. Just a reminder to smash that like button, everybody, as well, anyone that's in the chat. So, sorry, Chris, move on.
No problem at all, mate. Do you know what? I'll go with this one. But I'll just ask you for one, Antonio, because otherwise you'll be on for another hour, mate. Ali B1 says, who are your top 3 young promising players for our most needed positions? So as you know, we need a striker, we need a goalie, we need a right centre-back, we need a right winger. But if you were to name one player, and you know, Newcastle came to you, Antonio, and went, right, which players would you bring in those 4 positions, which player would you pick? Based on what you know, and maybe looking at, you know, potential youngsters, which ones do you think you would pick for Newcastle?
So I've got a question here. Are we talking like academy, or are we talking somebody that can come and hit the ground running? Because
I'd say immediate impact.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Immediate impact for. Let's start with a right wing. kind of feel like, I'm torn between two. I would kind of say, in terms of what Eddie Howe wants in a winger, although I think his final ball needs to improve, I'd probably say Johan Bakayoko, only because his directness is exactly what Eddie Howe wants in a winger. Since Eddie Howe's been our manager, we've scored the most goals and created the most opportunities after a take on. So Eddie Howe wants his wingers to be able to beat his man. And I think Johan Bakayoko's got that. He's got that robustness, the directness, the pace over longer and shorter distances. And I think that's what type of profile Eddie Howe's looking for. So if I had an option, and I think I was also looking at Ernest Nuama from Lyon, but I think in terms of where the levels are at the minute, Johan Bakayoko is a little bit more refined and had a little bit more experience than Ernest Nuama. So that's probably why I would say Johan Bakayoko. So I think that's the type of profile Eddie Howe wants in his wingers, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
And what we're looking at next, the right centre back.
Right centre back.
We're coming in somebody to do a job now, right now. Let's say if Shaw got injured and I had to pick a replacement, it'd be Rayan Flamingo.
Flamingo.
Yeah.
And what's the
And
next
then
one? Goalkeeper?
Goalkeeper.
This
one I'm
one's tough.
interested in.
This one's tough because from the players I've scouted, I'd probably say Lucas Chiavalier from Lille.
Yeah.
However, somebody this season's really caught my eye. His distribution reminds us of Manuel Neuer. Like, he's been unbelievable. And I didn't know much about him, to be honest. And that's Noah Atubulu. That's how you pronounce it. He plays for Freiburg in Germany. Noah Atubulu. I think his distribution could really help Newcastle. And he's a good shot stopper as well. I'm not just solely focusing on his ball playing ability. He's a good shot stopper. He's got a good high percentage of shot save percentages, but he's good in his decision making with the ball. Every goalkeeper knows how to make a pass, but the difference between an exceptional one and a good one is making the right decisions. And I feel like this
I am on the other side as well.
Really, really impressed me this season. I think because he hasn't got the hype around him yet, you could sign him for a small fee. He's really impressed me this season. I've not looked, to be honest. He's only 22. He's just been really, really consistent this season. But there's a few others that I've got my eye on as well.
Yeah.
A couple of if you want us to bat out the names, I will while we're talking. So Gulumi Restis, who also plays in France. You've got these other players that I'm currently scouting at the minute. I haven't fully scouted them. I'm just in the process of doing it. You've got there's a boy in Ajax's academy that's English as well. What's his name again? I tweeted out about him. Stefad, he's a goalkeeper for young Ajax. He's a one to watch for the future. Then you've got Zion Zuzuski from Parma. You've got Jon Garcia from Espanyol. Espanyol are terrible, but he's the only shining light. You've got what's his name again? Espestanio Desplanches from Palermo, who's a young Italian goalkeeper. And there's one from Slavia Praga that's impressed us quite a bit, and that's Antonin Kinski. So there are a couple of goalkeepers that I'm currently looking at and will be probably tweeting out about in the future, whether their attributes, the weaknesses. There are a couple of goalkeepers that I have got my eye on at the minute.
Antonio, Charlie Stepford, you're on about the English goalkeeper. He was actually close to signing for Arsenal. I think Arsenal.
Yeah, he was. You're right. You're right. He's a very impressive goalkeeper.
Definitely one to look out for. He's 20 years old, so he's not like young, but he's still, for goalkeeper sense, a very, very young goalkeeper. So he's performing well for them as well.
14 starts as well.
There's actually a right.
I think it's Ajax young,
now,
under 21.
Oh, is it?
Now we're on the situation at Ajax. There's actually a right winger that's caught my eye in the Ajax academy, and that's Jan Fabianski. He's a Polish right winger. So good, man. So comfortable in possession. Very, very, very creative. Good ball striking. Go down a bit. That's him there. On the left, Polish.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, Fabianski. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be a top player. He's going to be one of the shining lights of Polish future stars. He's a good player.
Right wing as well. Right wing with a little bit of left, as you can see on the heat map. One to keep an eye on. Jan Fabianski.
Been very impressive.
Okay. Some good names there being thrown out.
Yeah,
this is what it's all about.
And if we were going for a striker, Antonio, so someone to basically be the understudy for Alexander Isak, but who could make an immediate impact, who would you plumb for?
I was so tempted to say Stefano Tismas at Nuremberg. But if you want somebody to make an immediate impact, I'd probably go Dieno Barry from Villarreal, who I spoke about earlier, 6'5", physical. Because I think he's scored goals everywhere he's been, whether that be Ball or Villarreal that he's just joined. He knows where the back of the net is. Stefano Tilsmas is going to be a top player. I really believe he is. But he's not as developed as Barry. So if you're looking for someone that can be an understudy, but allow us to rest Isak in a couple of occasions, maybe against a Southampton, do you get what I mean? Then I would probably looking at somebody like Barry.
Yeah. Interesting, mate. Interesting. I mean, 6 or 5. I do love a good tall striker. So, and someone who sounds similar to Isak in terms of that, ability to kind of move around the pitch really elegantly. I'm all for that.
I think when Newcastle, they need a profile of a striker with good movement. I think Isak, his movement's so underrated, and I think it brings a lot to our play because it opens up gaps for Anthony Gordon to exploit or somebody to exploit. So I think when Newcastle are looking for a striker, they need a striker with good movement. So I think when you look at the likes of Barry, because he's played as a right winger, because he's played as a left winger, he gets it. He understands the rhythm of the game, if that makes sense. Although he's still incredibly raw, you will miss your chances. But what striker doesn't miss chances? Every striker misses chances. But he would definitely be somebody I would be looking at in terms of good movement, bringing others into play, etc.
I've got to do a big shout out to Benicia Bounds, who's just become a loaded ultra. Thank you very much, Benicia. Great to have you on board. And similar, we've got a loaded ultra for 30 months, and that's $219.83. And I'm going to ask you this one, boys. So, Pete, what's the minimum do you think we're going to spend in this January transfer window?
Hard to put a price on it, if I'm going to be honest, because it could be a fair chunk on one player, or it could be smaller amounts on maybe two. I think it's hard for me to say an actual figure that we're going to spend, but I do believe at least one player will come in. I've always said I wanted two in this window, but I do think at least one player will come in this window. So that's what I can say with certainty. But if you're going to ask me on a figure, I'll probably say maybe around 30 mil we'll spend.
That's what about you?
I'm less on the fence than Pete. I think we'll go and we'll spend. I think it will depend on player sales, though. That will unlock PSR a bit. But I think I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to say, and I know it's January, but I'm going to say 60 million. Because we're meant to have that in the summer, and the hell of a lot hasn't changed, and I think it's all being played down and off. I know all the stories are going up, but I'm expecting us to spend some money on a right winger and a right-sided centre back in some way, fashion, something like that.
Well, in that case, I'll go bang in the middle. I'll say 45 million in between the two. Yeah, we'll see who's closest. We'll see who's closest. Let's see, Antonio. Oh, actually, Antonio, I'll ask the boys this as well, but I'll come to you first. Would you guys be down if McAtee plus 70 million offer comes in for Bruno G in January or even in the summer? I'm assuming the answer's no for the January, but in the summer, is that something you think would be a good deal?
No.
I can tell he's thinking about it.
Who, me? No, not at all. I didn't know you were going to me next. That's why I wasn't sure.
I thought you were thinking about it there.
Look, if we don't get Europe, one of our top players is going, and I do think it would probably likely be Bruno. But I think if we get any form of European football, he's not going anywhere. And if we get European football in any way, shape, or form, I wouldn't accept anything under 105 million. Because for me, that's how much Arsenal pays for Declan Rice. And in my opinion, I think Bruno's better than Declan Rice.
Yeah. Not selling Bruno, full stop. Not till he wins something in Newcastle.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. A couple of names that have been thrown out here, and I don't know these, Antonio, and I'm hoping you do. David H says, "What are your thoughts on Mastantuono?"
Just to plug me on YouTube, I've actually done a scout report on him. If you want to go and check it out, but yeah, so he has been one of the most impressive players that have transitioned into the senior football in South American football this season. Like, he has been outstanding. Still, again, I'm not trying to big these players up enormously because they all come with the weaknesses and he's still incredibly raw. But in terms of quality-wise, he's outstanding. Like, he's the difference between winning and losing games. He doesn't have the pace, but he's got the football IQ and the technical ability to make a difference. Like, if I was to compare him to a player, now there might not be statements in terms of where they played, but in terms of like what they do with the ball and not having the pace to get them out of tricky situations, kind of like a David Villa. And not David Villa, David Silva. Like, do you know when you just ability to play in tight spaces, ability to find a pass, unlock a defense? That's what I mean. He's got that ability and he doesn't need pace to make a difference. And that's a sign of a top quality player. So I think he's very, very good. And I'm surprised, again, we haven't seen more links to him because he's got everything to play in the Premier League because, yes, you can say it's physical, but his intelligence is second to none from what I've seen. And I want to, just before we'll go, I want to point out two players that have really impressed me in youth football in the Independiente Academy, and the twin brothers. One plays the right winger, one plays an attack midfielder. And that's Holger Quintero, and the other one's called Edwin Quintero. Just keep an eye out for them because they look insane. Like, what they're doing at youth level is a crazy ability. So just a couple of players, keep an eye out. And again, if I'm Newcastle, these are the types of players that I'd be sending me scouts to, like, these sorts, South America, to look at these sorts of players because you can bring them in and the value in 5-10 years time can be next to 80 million, can be next to 100 million. So I personally feel this is the way around PSR. Bringing players through your academy, signing young, very, very good players, it's just going to benefit you in the long run. But they're two players to look out for.
Yeah. We can't do a transfer show without mentioning this name. And Scott has mentioned the name. He said, "What about Rayan Cherki? What do you think's going to go on with Rayan Cherki?"
Right. So I think he will leave eventually. He actually turned down PSG and Borussia Dortmund in the summer. But I do think he will leave eventually. In Rayan Cherki, man, in terms of maverick, street footballer, technical ability, silky dream skills, a player to get the fans excited, to lift you off your seat, he's got it all. Like he's creating 8 shot creating actions per 90. That's the most of anybody in Europe. And if I looked at South America as well, you'd probably top that league as well. Like his creativity is insane. Ability to go either direction and play off both feet is insane. However, he's not a type of... How can I put this? The reason why he hasn't left Lyon is because football's becoming a more systematic game. You would take everything away from him if you brought him into a systematic team. So if he went to Man City, he would end up like Jack Grealish, where he's lost that spark. He's lost that because he would get told where and when to pass the ball and where to be. He's a maverick. He needs to be expressive. And I actually think Newcastle could do with somebody like this. Somebody just to spark a bit of magic to unlock a defense at any moment. And I think he would actually do well at a team like Newcastle. Slightly, although he can play anywhere, he's quite versatile. He can play right wing, centre attack, midfield, left wing. I prefer him in the middle again, just because of his creativity, his ability to get on the ball and just maneuver around 4 or 5 players. Absolute genius when it comes to football ability. But it's just that consistency. That's where he needs to now bring in his game. He's starting to bring goals into his game. He's picked his performances up. And I kind of feel like I've had a lot of questions about why he hasn't left Lyon and about why he struggled at times. And I kind of feel like Lyon is kind of put their club similar to what Man United's going through, where behind the scenes it's just not a good environment. And I kind of feel like he's been stuck in that because he's a type of player that needs to be loved. You can tell it in his ability, his attitude. If he doesn't feel loved, he won't perform. And I feel like Newcastle fans would absolutely love him because it would kind of see similar, not in terms of playing style, but Ben Arthur type of player. And you know how Newcastle fans felt about Ben Arthur. So, like, do you know what I mean? I just think it would be brilliant. I just want to watch him live, really. So I want him to come down to Newcastle, but he's a genius. He's a genius maverick footballer.
Yeah.
Absolute gem.
Yeah, I think it would be great if we signed him. I just can't see him under Eddie Howe for some reason. But I would love
his defensive work is one of the things. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Eddie Howe wants his players to be defensively on it, and he hasn't got that in him, unfortunately.
No. Well, hopefully he comes to the Premier League. It'd be nice to see him in the Premier League, but we'll
just not City. I don't think he would do well at City. Yeah.
No.
So I think Pep would change him.
Yeah.
Like he did, like he'd done with Grealish. And Savio and these players that have got that little chink of something. It just
takes it away.
Yeah. And I've got one more question for you, and it comes from PDK, who is great to have back in the chat. We haven't seen PDK for a while, so I hope you're well, PDK. Oi, Mango. any little mags breaking into the first team. So give us one player, Mango, in the Newcastle youth who you think could be the next player to break through. I know we've seen a couple break through, but is the one standout player that you've seen and you've gone, do you know what? he could make it through either this season or possibly next season? Who would be your one player who you go, he'd be one I keep an eye on?
I think the obvious one to say here is Sanusi. I think he's the obvious one to say, so I'm not going to say him. I'm going to say someone different. And I do like the look of, there's a couple of players I like the look of. I like the look of Rory Finneran, who we've brought in. I like the look of Sam Alabi, both tremendous potential. But there's one player that keeps on standing out to me that I've seen, and that's Michael Mills, the left winger. He's really, really looking really impressive. So I think if there's anybody that's going to be the next Lewis Miley to break through, again, not the same position, but that sort of stature, that isn't Sanusi, because I think Sanusi will get his opportunities. I think he will. But I think Michael Mills has really impressed me, whether that be for England or Newcastle. He's been really impressive and a really standout player. So I think he's a one to watch for the future. I think he's still only 15, might just turn 16, might have. But I think he's a one to watch for the future, and Newcastle should be keeping him under tight ropes and trying to get him signed into a pro contract. I like him. I think Newcastle have done well with a couple of smart signings for their academy. I think they're starting to concentrate on that, which is good because, again, PSR rules is bringing us down. So to have these players coming through the academy is a really big positive.
Yeah. In the next we were talking about that the other day, weren't we, lads, saying that, you know, in the next 2 to 3 years, we're hoping that we're going to start seeing that churn, a bit like what we've seen with City, but we just don't want to sell the best ones like City have.
Yeah.
Keep the best ones and get rid of a few to obviously keep that churn going.
That's a positive. I mean, Chelsea are brilliant at this. Sometimes they get the wrong sellings, but if you look at the Premier League, the majority of Premier League teams has got a player that's represented Chelsea in them. They're brilliant at just making 100% profit through their academy. So if the players you bring in are not good enough or not the profile to fit your squad, at least you can sell them on. You're allowing them to have a better career elsewhere, so you're giving them the opportunity to shine, but you're also bringing in money for your own club. And that's why I think investment in your academy is a way forward. It absolutely is.
It's the steps that you're taking. You look at Man City. We've just talked about James McAtee tonight.
Cool.
That is exactly what Man City are doing. Is that if they do eventually sell him, they've developed him in the academy, making money on him, selling him off. And if he came to us, for example, we would be doing exactly the same. And maybe on a scale just slightly down from them. You maybe like championship clubs will take them, or lower Premier League clubs, and you start churning the players out that way. It's all part of the
That's the way to do it, because it allows you, if they're not good enough for your squad, that's fine. It allows you to invest more money in the transfer market. So then you've got more money to comply with PSR rules. And if you look at Man City, there's some of the players that have come out their academy that people aren't talking about, like Harvard, what's his name? Harvard Bellis Wood from you've got Romeo Lavia. You've got a couple of players that are playing in the Dutch league now that have come out of that Man City's academy, and all this is just 100% profit.
Even the players we've been speaking about, Antonio, Liam Delap, Morgan Rogers, Tyler Dibling, they've all had that feeling.
All had that sort of thing. So definitely the way forward is in. I'm not just saying this because I like youth players coming through. I'm saying this because it actually benefits your club.
You know and this is what Paul Mitchell is known for as well. Look what he did at Monaco, getting the players into the first team.
Well, he brought through some incredible players at Monaco. Yeah. So if eventually you'll start doing that, we'll start seeing the fruits of that. But it just takes time. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But eventually we will start seeing the fruits of it.
We will.
Yeah, we will.
Any other questions?
Nope. That is us. That is us.
There we go.
Oh, sorry. There was one more from Tom Dixon. When are we going to win a trophy? I'm desperate for this topic.
Me too. Hopefully beginning of March.
We're in a semi-final. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Hopefully beginning of March. Tom, we can both get ours along with Daz and Chris. Get all of them together. Why not?
Yeah.
And we're up in Newcastle.
Loaded
Why
mag tattoos all around. Why not?
Yeah,
why not?
there we go. But no, look, Antonio, massive thanks for coming on and joining us.
No
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers, Antonio.
Hear your knowledge of your sort of talent ID, and it's great to have so many in the chat that are throwing names out there as well that you can connect with. Everybody's learning, everybody's picking up information and names of players and ones to keep an eye out. It's why we love this particular show when we have you on so much, because it gives a real sort of different dimension.
If you want us to come on, well, it's 2nd of Jan now. If you want us to come on once a week throughout Jan, I'm more than happy to, because there's loads of players we could talk about. I mean, I wanted to talk about like Magnus Alcalucci from Monaco. You've got Ernest Nuama, who I mentioned earlier. You've got loads of players in the Brazilian league, like Keno Arayo, players like that. So Rodrigo Moura, there's Santiago Castro. There's loads of names that we could be talking about that are actually playing in Europe at the minute. So if you want us back on, more importantly, if the people watching want us back on, then I'm more than happy to come back on.
There you go.
There you go.
You decide. Vote now.
And Antonio, Adam Robson asks again, what's your channel called? Is it just a case of putting your name in on YouTube and then
it's literally just called António Mango. So if you just type in my name, António Mango, into YouTube, I'll pop up at the top. Just hit that subscribe button. Be greatly appreciated.
And if you're watching on screen now, you'll see highlighted, there's a hypertext link to Antonio Mango Media. Click on that, and it'll get you into Antonio's site.
Appreciate
the show.
Thank you.
So that will
No
get you there.
problem at all. Big thanks to everyone in the chat. The chat was superb today. Players getting thrown out there, great conversations going on about various different players. There will be more of a transfer talk where we're talking the actual sort of direct links. We talked about Craig Hope's piece today, and we touched on Tyler Dibling and James McAtee as well. There'll be other links. We're going to talk about Dubravka and Miggy and all those other players. The ins and the outs will be coming in the shows in the days to come. So keep an eye on those things.
Just on that,
there
could be a possibility for Noni Manueki to be available if once Estevão comes, because I think Estevão is the best Brazilian talent in a long time. I think if I could have an ideal signing for Newcastle United as a right winger, it'd be him. I think Chelsea really got a actual gem on their hands. But whether or not he can do it in the Premier League, I don't know. But there is an opportunity for Noni Manueki to potentially be available. So,
do you know what, Antonio? It's funny you say that, because we were talking about that the other day. I can't remember if it was with you boys or whether I spoke to Pete after the show. Can't remember which one it was. But Maresca came out, didn't he, and said that Madueke had been left out for tactical reasons. And that's normally the first sign, isn't it? That something, all is not well, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I wondered if his name will pop up again.
You mentioned that, but it was I've noticed Chelsea fans are also saying it too. They're also saying that he's not playing well, that there's something not quite right in his game, and that maybe coincides with the drop off. Every player has moments. Like I think when when he scored that hat trick, I think it was against Wolves or whatever, and everyone's kind of talking about him at that point. That's really, in my opinion, the only game that I've seen him play where I've gone, "Wow, what a game, what a player." I've not seen it since.
The thing about
caps still hasn't. I don't know.
The thing about Noni Manueki's style of play is frustrating but there's a purpose to it, because he's that type of player that, because of the way he plays, it's not always going to come off. It's not always going to look good, because you can get those technical players that just move the ball quickly and it looks incredible. But he's the type of player that needs to beat his man. It's much harder to beat your man than it is to pass the ball around your man. So I get what they're saying. Johan Bakayoko's got a little bit of this in him. So if he does eventually arrive to Newcastle, you might get frustrated with him at times. Release the ball quicker, because he can be over ambitious in his directness and his dribbling style. but it's just his natural game. That's what comes natural to him. But when it comes off, he sparked a bit of brilliance in your side. Do you know what I mean? So it's just about getting used to that ability to be able to, from to lose the ball at times, if that makes sense, because that's his natural game.
Yeah, definitely. And it takes a good manager to get it out of him as well. So
yeah,
definitely wait and see. But people, that's a wrap. That's a wrap for tonight's show. And we love them too, Tom. We love them too.
Shout out as well to the Radiator Shed, our sponsor, the Radiator Shed, and contact Russ on 077-666-04112. I know you missed the tune, but we won't play it tonight. We'll play out with something else. And I'm going to play out when we haven't played for a while, like a loaded magpie, because you never know. All these players may not be in it the next time we have a show, so you never know how it goes. Nice one. Neil has the link there to Antonio's YouTube channel as well. That's a wrap. Thanks again, Antonio. We'll see everyone.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Take care, guys. You too.
Each and every single day.